This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to The Front Porch. Real conversations about life, leadership, and perseverance. Each week, Dennis Polian and Jay Davis bring you inspiring stories and lessons to help you grow, lead, and thrive. Pull up a chair. The conversation starts now.
Welcome to another edition of the Front Porch Podcast. I'm Dennis Polian. This is Jay Davis. We are in a new room. We're trying out something different for our one person that watches on YouTube. Hey, Mom. The fun part about today is the day we're filming. We're in the middle of college football season, the middle of the NFL season. We thought it would be a great idea to talk about everything that's going on in college football right now. Right now, we have LSU, Florida, Penn State, Virginia Tech, Stanford, UCLA, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas are all open head coaching jobs. Over $114 million in guaranteed buyouts. Now, as business owners and as two people who've been in the sports profession, we thought it would be nice to switch it up and talk about what's going on there and how many lessons there really are in the business world for entrepreneurs and people just getting started with what's going on.
Yeah. Did you forget Colorado State? Fort Collins.
I forgot about Colorado State.
Fort Collins is beautiful this time of year.
Gosh.
So, yeah.
And I'm sorry to Coach Norvell. Jay Norvell is an unbelievable human being and a great coach. I just actually listed the Power Four. The Power Four schools. They're not quite in the Pac-12 yet. That'll be next year.
Hey, we can't forget about the little guy, right?
I know. I apologize.
Huh?
As a small
That's
business
what we're
owner,
all
I
about.
shouldn't,
This is what
right?
we're all about right here. It's the little guy, propping up the little guy to make him the big guy or big gal.
That's right.
So interesting podcast. Different atmosphere. Kind of like it. Kind of dig it a little bit. Feel like we're a couple of radio jockeys here.
It does feel like an old
sitting
radio
at the desk,
studio.
right? I don't know if we're Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann or what. Here, I feel like we've got to run some highlights from the
More like Fred and Barney.
something like that. Yeah. No, we got to run the highlights on the OKC Thunder last night, but gonna really kind of. We don't have a guest, but with Dennis's background and very in-depth background, we had a conversation this morning about this afternoon's podcast, and our guy is an expert in the space, so we'll see where it goes. It should be fun, and again, our goal is always to apply anything that we run across every day, right, to what we do now, what we've done in the past, and kind of what we want to do in the future, but also not to be selfish, but to our viewers and our listeners that we're here to help. You know, we're here to extend a hand, and being a small business owner, or entrepreneur is tough. Yeah, and being a coach is tough right now too, huh?
Yes, it is. It is. It's you articulated what today's episode is about way better than I possibly could have. Everybody likes to put their emotion, rightfully so, into their team, their favorite team, who they support, and what goes on a weekly basis, in particular, the football season. And what we forget is, Brian Kelly got let go last night, Billy Napier a couple weeks ago.
Families, right?
Well over 100 people involved in any of these instances.
It kind of gives me the chills a little bit, when you think about it.
That doesn't include families. That's people in the building. And not everybody will lose their job, but a lot of people will. It used to be where if there was a change with the head coach, that just the coaches would get let go, and their families and them, they understand this is the profession we're in, and there's a sacrifice to be made there. There's obviously great compensation, great benefit, to be in those kinds of roles, and particularly at the bigger schools. But the trainer wouldn't get let go, or the operations person wouldn't get let go. But in today's day and age, there's so much investment going on.
Support staff that nobody thinks about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are going to be a lot of changes in all of those programs behind the scenes as well, that I think we would be remiss if we didn't recognize that those people, through no fault of their own, are going to have to find something new. Some will have a chance to stay where they are, but the vast majority are going to have to move on, unfortunately.
And not to get in the political game, but it's kind of like being in politics, right? When the higher ups change office, I mean, it flows downhill, and a lot of people that were loyal, that had an allegiance to that particular individual, that particular party. I come from the great state of Illinois, so I understand that. I lived in Springfield, Illinois, and capital with state politics, and you see when there's a shift change, how it affects people all the way down the line, and it's you don't think about that. You know, you see the flash, you see the coach, you see the sound bites, but there are, as you know, there are a lot of people all the way down the line that make a program successful. And it takes everybody.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And I think in college athletics at the highest level, what we would call the P4 level today, folks that are putting their financial support behind these decisions, in a lot of ways, forget that piece of it.
Yeah.
The athletic director, in making those decisions, a lot of times, and everyone that I've come across, and I know Scott Woodward. I worked for Scott Woodward. I know at LSU that was difficult for him. But when you read articles on CBSSports.com or Yahoo, wherever, talking about how people are passing a hat in suites during the game to fund a buyout, it's a quip and it's a joke in some ways, but it's also not in real. Other ways. But it's real, and there's such an emotional reaction to that when those very people that are funding that have lost patience, because not only are they funding facilities, they're funding players, for lack of a better term. And now there is so much pressure to win now in an industry that has so much more parity than people realize, because every school in the Power 4 level is going to have money for revenue sharing. Not everybody's going to have the same NIL, but everybody's going to have rev share money. And that means talent's going to continue to spread out. But the emotional push or the emotional tie of investing in your program, I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. And there's a little bit of a lack of connection between, well, I gave this player this much money, and I gave money for this NIL deal. Why am I not seeing results when it's a business that requires physical and mental development, and results most often don't occur right away. So it's building a culture, building a team requires time. And North Carolina and Indiana are great examples. North Carolina, 70 new players, new culture, new way of learning, new campus, new city, all of those things for young people who are not quite mature enough to handle that, going through that on top of the coaches learning these new players, what they can do, what suits them best. And as you've watched Carolina progress through the year, are they winning games? No, but they're playing better football.
They are getting better.
And you can see the progression happening. Indiana didn't make as many changes.
Google me. right?
And they were not that bad. They were on the rise in terms of their development and their recruiting. They had some good pieces.
Still the most
in
losing
the building.
college football program,
And that's
they're,
okay.
they're waiting for Northwestern to trip up.
I'll tell you what, that's going to change. I'm a big believer in him and what he does, but then what he did was when he brought people in, he brought players he knew.
He brought his culture with him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's
And money allowed him to do that.
yes.
Yep.
So there's good and bad to it. And I think the good outweighs the bad, except for these moments when you are using really what's other people's money to cover up for success that isn't happening at your pace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, I'm not speaking about just athletic directors. I'm not speaking about just presidents. There's boards involved. Shoot, at LSU, the governor is involved because there's an interim president. Mm-hmm. It's, if you're a business owner and you're making decisions in the manner in which college coaches' fates are decided, you would be out of business very quickly. And, in the NFL, people talk about how coaches have no lifespan in the NFL. They don't have $60 million buyouts. They don't have 6 and 7 year fully guaranteed contracts. They have much shorter commitments financially, so they're able to turn those things over because the owners are operating a for-profit business.
Right.
College athletics is not a for-profit business. It's a piece of a nonprofit college campus. And sometimes it makes me wonder, this is how the schools conduct their business. Is that what they're teaching their business students?
Right.
Life moves fast, but the unexpected doesn't care about your calendar. At the Polian Agency, we help successful families protect what they've worked so hard to build. From life insurance to smart coverage strategies, we tailor protection that grows with you, so you're prepared for whatever's next. The Polian Agency, where protection meets purpose. Visit PolianAgency.com or call 254-772-1444 to start the conversation.
Well, and that's a great segue because, as we talked in the first couple episodes, you made a pivot because you saw where the business was going. Mm-hmm. And you were about, as Nick Saban, right? You were about developing young adults. And it shifted, I wouldn't say overnight, but pretty close to shifting overnight. I mean, you saw the writing on the wall, but to give our viewers and our listeners a little behind the scenes, how you ended up as a small business owner in the insurance financial space, what was it? Was it the change in the business or was it the chaos in the business that prompted you to make a pivot to what you're doing now?
I think it was the chaos in the business, to be honest. I think, and I don't mean this in a negative way because I love what college athletics is about and don't have any regrets about any decisions I made to leave the NFL and go to a college campus. Sometimes the chaos and the noise around the chaos and what I would call the machine that really at the end of the day pays the bills because the media dollars generate everything. I mean, everything trickles off of it. Enrollment because of exposure, fundraising.
Why'd the Pac-12 dissolve, right? Because of TV media rights, right?
And all of that creates narratives and conversations around things that don't apply to what philosophically you're trying to do in the building. And you would hear that argument from a lot of proponents who want more structure, more salary control, more expense control. But it's hard to do that under the law, the way it's structured now and the way universities operate. The NCAA to the conferences, then to the individual campuses. Everybody wants what's best for their group, but the bigger the group, the harder it is to get that consensus. And what it creates is what we have today. We have 7 power for school jobs open and a group of for school open who's making the transition into the Pac-12 from the Mountain West. And they're all citing, we need to be ahead of things. We need to give ourselves an advantage. But I wonder how far are you really going to set yourself back? And how many schools are really going to get their number one choice in there? How many schools are going to overpay because of this? Thinking of it from a lot, not from an alumni standpoint or from an individual school by school standpoint, but just from a business perspective. When you make a decision like that, that's a $50 million decision, a $40 million decision, even a $20 million decision. If it's a lump sum, that's a lot of capital.
Right.
If you're a business owner, you have to understand your return on investment there. And I would argue that the machine is so big right now that sometimes these decisions are so optic driven and so emotionally driven that we don't know what the return on investment is going to be.
Well, and that's a great point, because you say emotionally driven. I know of all the fantastic, successful business people I've worked with and you've worked with, is emotion's not involved. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason they call them fans. They're fanatics, right? The other interesting thing, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but there's really no salary cap in college football.
Not right now. Well, there is on the revenue
there is
share,
with the 20 million revenue share.
NIL still exists, and Florida is going to have a different baseline than LSU, than Vanderbilt. Northwestern's going to have a different baseline than Nebraska. And those folks are going to have to be really, really strategic about it. Now, when you look at it from a CFP perspective and a conference by conference standpoint, Northwestern can still be successful, because once you get into the playoff, anything can happen, right? It's so much closer to the NFL than people want to admit. And part of that is the playoff. Once you get in, you have a chance. Any given game day, something can happen, and that you don't expect. And that's what makes it great for the fans. That's what makes it an unbelievable thing and an unbelievable experience for the student athlete and for the coaches. But you have to have a process for that. If you're the great example, right? We're filming at the top of the Alico building in downtown Waco, home of Baylor University.
Yeah, we can see the stadium from here.
Right.
Yeah, McLean Stadium.
They're not going to have the same NIL that Texas Tech is going to have. But
so I'm going to interrupt you. And I think this is good from a business standpoint. It's good from, if we have people that love athletics, college football, lacrosse, golf, whatever. If you are, it could XYZ University. Why do I want to come there if you don't have the NIL that can bleed or filter down to, you got your major revenue sports, right? Your football and your basketball, but we're looking over Baylor campus. You got a tremendous men's and women's basketball program, right? Tennis has won a national championship, I believe. I got my Louisville hat on representing today. I mean, we've got two revenue sports and then 4 or 5 non-revenue sports that are ranked in the top 20 right now. And so...
Well, I can answer that question easy. And it's what I was going to get into. Michelle Leonard's the soccer coach here. They're a top 10 program now. When she first got here, she brought accountability. She brought process. She brought fundamental development. And Joey Scrivano, the women's tennis coach, same thing. And there are times when I know that they were questioned on what they were doing, when people didn't see the results right away, right? We're in a click now, result now culture, but people development isn't click now and result now. And they stayed true to who they are and what their process is, because everywhere else they had been successful. And they are doing great now. Now, do they have the same NIL situation as basketball? No, very likely not. But they do get some support, just like every other school.
Right.
And they're in a community where they are supported by people. People come and watch them and support them at their games and create a good environment. And that matters to the athletes.
Absolutely,
that matters.
It matters to the athletes.
And they see that and they feel it. But here's the other piece. The part of the process is they know the type of individual that's going to be successful in that university. They know who's going to fit, who's not going to fit. And they know that, well, maybe my results will take a little bit longer, but I'm going to develop better players. And the folks that may have a choice, do I want $20,000 extra to go play tennis at TCU, or do I want to go to Baylor where there's a huge cultural fit and I know I'm going to be developed in this way? Some may take that money, but those who don't, in the long run, are going to be better off for it. Quietly, Scott Drew is doing that.
Yeah.
Nikki Colon is doing that.
Right.
Dave's been doing that. Football is such a bigger monster that it's harder to turn over and create results. And that's a whole nother topic. But when you look at Baylor basketball, I think they have a whole new set of 10 or 12 guys this year. Mm-hmm. And he's having to re-teach his culture, but he knows exactly the type of individual and skill set at each position that he wants, and his staff is held accountable to that through their process. And you're going to see a team this year that I think is going to play defense with the same effort that they did when Jerome Tang was on his staff. And that's with a whole new roster. Mm-hmm. So it is possible when you don't have as much as other schools, but it's a different process, and everybody on campus in leadership, including the board and the biggest donors, have to understand that and be on the same page.
Well, and on this conversation, and to that point, is non-revenue coaches are small business owners in this environment.
Yes.
They have to maximize.
That's a great point.
They have to maximize everything that they get. And if you're going to get, I should say, if you're going to get people that fit the culture, you have to have a process and a system to vet the people that you know can plug and play in here, and appreciate what your program has to offer, what the university has to offer, to get the most out of your team. Mm-hmm. And, being a golfer at Louisville, even before NIL, non-revenue sports were acknowledged at, a football or basketball game. We did our own fundraising, but it's nice to see, some programs now can, non-revenue sports specifically, can enjoy a little bit of that trickle down, and know that, not that a coach is they kind of are, because I was a coach at the Division II level, and there's a lot that comes at you from a non-revenue sports standpoint, to where you're kind of managing a business.
You're wearing all the hats,
right?
And if you want to be successful, you have to engage equally in each role when you put on each hat. And I have to tell you, when I made the transition into owning my own business, I made a lot of mistakes because of the fact that I was using other people's money everywhere else I was.
That's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Oh, it's great.
And I know you're accountable to that, but you weren't frivolous about it.
I wasn't frivolous and very...
But you could go home at night and rest easy, right? Not wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right?
I knew the invoices were getting paid for the vendors we were using. I knew we could we could make decisions on certain standards of experience for our guys and in recruiting as well. And I turn around, I want to do those same kind of things in my business, and made some decisions on the front end like that, where it was, whoa, it's gonna take me a lot longer to get the return on that. Now, it'll spill over in time, but I would have approached it much differently and a lot more cautiously had I been, for lack of a better term, warned about that,
Right.
and kind of shown that. And the non-revenue sport example is the perfect example of that's somebody who really does have to be creative and maximize their time in the weight room because they're sharing a weight room, their time on the practice field because they might be sharing a
I
field.
shared with the women's volleyball team, and they scared the heck out of me. And they were good friends of mine, but man, I didn't want to get on the squat machine after
No,
them.
yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah, you need to stay slim and flexible for your swing. Counterintuitive.
I had to throw that in because it was 5:30 workouts in the wintertime with the women's volleyball team, and we're currently ranked, I think, third or fourth now, and it was intimidating, but it's a great. I personally, and you've been on both sides, college, NFL. I was a huge NFL guy when I was in Illinois. Now that I moved down here, the kind of the college scene and being in a college town, but more so college football has kind of taken me more than ever, even when I lived up north. It's and the money that's trickling down and the 20 million revenue share and how do you budget that and how do you do it, and I'm sure there's many non-revenue coaches, both men's and women's side, advocating that we need this, we need that. It's really I don't care what role you're in college athletics. You whether you're a big CEO of a Power 4 college football program, basketball program, all the way down to tennis, soccer, whatever, you're a big CEO or a mini CEO. You got to figure it out and how to make it work.
Yeah, and it's at the end of the day, institutions. And to be clear, I've always felt that players should be taken care of this way. They've always deserved it, and I think it's a good thing. But in the NCAA is essentially like the government. I can say that now because I don't think I'll ever have a job in the NCAA ever again. But everything is slow. Change is so slow.
Maybe we'll advise the NCAA at one time.
If Charlie Baker, if you're listening, the schools have a choice. Are we going to do this or are we not? And if we're going to do this, we have to do it at the right level. And what that may create at the end of the day is even more angst and pressure and tension for not the revenue sports in general, for football. Because when you from a business perspective look at it deeply, look at the numbers, football drives the needle for everybody. Very few football programs were making a profit. And if they were giving money back to the university, as they should. They're part of the university. But essentially, they're not making a profit because they're funding everything else. And there's nothing wrong with that model. You just wish it would have been sooner when the student athlete was
Right.
being taken care of from a revenue standpoint like they are now. And then basketball comes in second. I went to Villanova, right? It's the FCS football school, having a great year so far. And, they sell tickets. It costs money to go to their games. They sell merchandise and raise money, but
Louisville
they're still
ranked 16th in the AP. Just had to throw that out there.
They're still running on a loss. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. Kevin Willard and the basketball team will be tipping off soon. But basketball there is essentially acting like football would at a P5 school. They're funding the infrastructure for everything else. And that's not, when people say football moves the needle, that's not a bad thing. You know why? Because it generates revenue to fund scholarships for other student athletes. It creates opportunity. And there's so many different layers to it.
So many that people don't understand.
So because the layers aren't discussed, when you turn around in October, we're not even to Halloween, and 7 Power 5 schools are open for over $100 million in buyouts for the head coach only. That's not talking about. We're not talking about assistants. We're not. There are support staff with multi-year contracts. Now, that's even more expensive, and you have to pay those people and turn them over and bring in new people, and that's benefit cost. It's relocation cost. As a business owner, right? As they professionalize college athletics, I wonder when and if and when does that cycle ever get broken and they start to treat it with less emotion and more business acumen?
I think as business owners, we both know that should happen. And for not the casual fan, but maybe the little bit of an outlier fan that's just the fan that doesn't understand or want to understand the business or the ickiness about it, it's coming to that.
Yep.
It has to, right?
And every industry has its breaking point, and college athletics, people don't want to say this. It's an industry, it's an economy, it's a business,
right?
And so is education at all levels. In some aspects, as a business. The thing that's interesting is, how does it get to that? Because Ross Dillinger, I think it was, with Yahoo Sports, had a great quote from an on-campus official, not in athletics, but a high-level official at a school. And I don't want to quote the school because I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. The line was, "We know it's a problem, but at the end of the day, we can find the money." Right? And that applies to everybody. Like that, the statement was, if the school wants to make a change, if people with influence want to make a change, they'll find the money. So in that instance, if you're in the business world, right? If I wanted to do something and I needed to quote unquote find the money, and I go find that money, the person with that gave me that money, right? They're going to expect some influence on decisions, right? And is that really healthy? And they talked about it on game day Saturday morning. Actually, Kirk Herbstreit brought up the same point, and McAfee talked a little bit about it too, where he actually helped bail out West Virginia in a situation, and kind of made it the point. It's like, I don't know who it went to or where it went, but I want nothing to do with the decisions that Coach Rich Rod makes. But that's not happening. And that, I wonder sometimes, is that folks' way of saying they're an owner without having to spend $9 billion on a NFL team? It's a very interesting concept. And I started thinking about it in the sense of, this would be a great conversation for the show, because I started to look back from day one of when I basically signed on the dotted line to open this business, when I signed the lease on the office, and look through all the decisions I was making and what lens was I making them through. Was it emotional? Was it, I'm used to nice things, but I didn't have to pay for it, so I don't even understand the concept of how much nice office furniture costs, or nice Christmas party for the staff, or the technology that we use in our staff development, those kinds of things. I was thinking about it through a lot of my experience, through the lens of a lot of my experiences on college campuses, when I should have really been applying all of the lessons that I learned in a lifetime around the NFL.
But I will stop you on that. And being part of that process and doing a 180 pivot, I would say that the reason you made that decision was the basis of it was emotion.
Yep. Yeah, that's the key. It was
The
emotion.
basis of it was emotion. And of all your training, your experience, high-level negotiations, high-level whatever, P&Ls, contracts, buyouts, offsets, you kind of made the decision with, I wouldn't say 100% emotion, but there was probably, I'm guessing, you can correct me, but I would say it was probably 60-40 to 70-30 emotion.
Probably 62-38, you know.
Shocker. Shocker, nerd boy comes up with
I don't
specific
believe,
numbers.
folks, I do not believe in directionally accurate.
No, he does not. I can attest to
the
that.
numbers got to be right.
I can attest to that. But yeah, I mean, we'll take a break here in a second, but yeah, I would just to kind of give the listeners and viewers a kind of peek behind the curtain. I was involved in that process with you, and I kind of got into the process a little late in the game, but and we talked about it, you know, in the first couple episodes that you saw where the business was going. You really got in the business, even on the NFL side, where it's more of a business than college was at the time. You're still developing people.
Oh yeah, and that's where the emotion has to be taken out of it, because
Which is super hard.
because it involves people, right?
Right.
People are humans' emotions
Yeah.
are an unpredictable thing, and you know, in any business, it's people and their skill set and their mindset, and that takes time and energy and intent or intentional thought and consistent devotion to whatever process you have.
Well, and you're human too, so you care, right? I mean, you know what the end result is. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know what the end result is. But ultimately, you care about people, right?
Yes.
And you know, it all comes back to really what this podcast is all about is, you know, somebody might tune in today and say, oh, these guys are, you know, I thought it was about grit, grind, perseverance, and now they're talking about college football. But if you kind of really listen to what we're talking about, what we're really getting at is business is hard. People are people. And how do you separate it to be successful?
Yep. It can be that simple. It should be that simple, right?
Scale
and
reduces
you have
risk,
to-
right?
Careful scale. Responsible scale reduces risk.
Sorry, that just popped
The
up.
math has to math,
does the math.
as they say. It's the most difficult part of anything you do, I think, is the people part, and that's why it's so intriguing how different the college football business landscape is when these decisions happen, because the impact that it has is heavy, and
Everywhere.
letting somebody go is the hardest thing anybody who cares can do. It is the hardest decision you have to make, especially if it's not emotional in the lead up to it, and it's a real analytical process and the results are clear, and you've given that person every single opportunity. And I like I said, I know Scott Woodward personally, and I know he has probably been agonizing over that piece of it, because like 34-14 in the SEC, when you were actually behind on NIL in the conference, is actually a very good thing. When you did have to restructure recruiting and refocus on Louisiana and things like that, that stuff takes time to take root, and he knows that. But he also knows the impact. I mean, I've been through transition with him, and I've seen how he treats people in that, and see the empathy. but on the outside looking in, you don't see that.
Right.
And it makes it
see
look
the Twitter clips.
Yeah.
That,
And it makes it look like that process for everybody is like a fantasy football league, and you're cutting and trading and making those decisions essentially on spreadsheets. And in my experience, I've been exposed to people who do that. I've been exposed to people who, and have had experience with people who don't. And it just makes it so unique that despite all of that, despite private equity conversations, despite maxed out debt on facility improvements, despite all of that, we just throw our emotion into it and write a check, right? And I wonder, what does that signal to the players? What does it signal to the person that's studying for a cure for cancer,
right?
Which is also part of the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that we often often overlook.
Who do you think owns the patents to those things?
Right.
And they make money off of that too, and it's not a bad thing.
Right.
But it's just not spoken about because we don't have fantasy research leagues like we do fantasy football and baseball, et cetera. But
hey, maybe we found a new business.
Maybe. who's applying for what grant this week?
Right.
But the reality is, I mean, those things that have so much impact on culture and society, just like sports, schools monetize that as well. And but they're not making their decisions that way. And I would just love to see what the impact is from a brand value standpoint, from an enrollment standpoint. We know what winning does to enrollment. We know what television ratings does to enrollment and brand value and free marketing. But what does the investment in these changes mean? I would love to see if there's been a study on that and what history shows you.
And this may be just totally off the wall, but you take that explanation, that perspective, and you apply it to a small business owner and what we do. We don't walk in one day and turn the knob and raise rates or raise prices on food, and the consumer, somebody that maybe goes to the same place every day. And then, maybe they don't see that it's 21 cents more, but then they decide to get a few more things, or they got the family in the car, and now it's, well, it used to be X, now it's Y. Why are you doing this to me? And they think it's, the business owner appreciates the loyalty and their consumer base and their customers and their clients. I don't like the word customers, I like clients. And that we just don't randomly decide to say, Dennis has showed up at my joint for the last 21 days straight. And the reason he wasn't there on the 22nd day, he was on vacation with his family. And I just, Dennis is so loyal, I'm just going to give it to him today, right? Yeah. And they don't, from a business owner standpoint, and maybe I'm way off base, but it's something that I've always had multiple screens on my desk to show people that, I don't make the sausage, I advocate on your behalf because I appreciate you. And I'm loyal to you in the fact that I'll do everything I can to make sure I give you the best product for the fairest price. And I don't know if I just went crazy here with what we're talking about. We're talking about multi-zillion billions of dollars, but then we're small business owners, and we advocate for small business owners, and it's all relative. Again, I'm going to go a little crazy here, but I play golf for a living, but I taught it at a high level as well, and I used to get clients come to me and say, well, you're so good at this. Why would I, I'm super embarrassed or super anxious about coming to you for this. Can you help me out? And I say, you know what? I don't care how successful you are. I don't care what you own. I don't care what your bank account says. We all have the same anxieties. They're just on a different level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you look at it from a business perspective, it's all fundamentally the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's less zeros,
Right.
and that's how I've always actually looked at the NFL versus college, small business ownership versus being in high level sports. Is there's more zeros in some cases in the NFL. There's more zeros in some cases in college, and in college football particularly.
Yeah.
And in small business, there's less zeros, but the fundamentals are the same. Again, people and process, and how, depending on what business you're in, if you're solo, you need to develop yourself, and you need somebody on the outside keeping you in check, for lack of a better term. But if you have a team, if you're somebody with a team, and you're not developing that team, and you're not building a culture, and you don't have a process, you will make emotional decisions because things aren't going to go your way.
It's a great point.
And it doesn't. And when the zeros are yours, that's something that needs to be in the back of your head always. And that's why I actually put more energy into my team than I do interfacing with clients. I interface with clients at very specific points in their calendar, and then whenever they want me. But other than that, and that's part of my process, but other than that, I am with my team, and I'm building my team skill because they are interfacing with the clients more. And the clients need to feel like when they talk to somebody on my team that it's not different than talking to me. We're one message, we're one form of communication, we treat people the same way. You're not thinking to yourself, if this person calls in and so answers the phone, we might lose a big account. Mm-hmm. That's on you as the owner, and that's about your culture and your process. Because one thing goes wrong, and emotion comes into play. Now you're very likely.
Process is gone.
Yeah.
The emotion interjects into that situation. The process is gone. And, what you just said there is what leadership is all about. Mm-hmm. You're only as good as the people that are around you.
Yep.
And I think we fail to realize how important the front lines of our business are, because that is a direct, it's a direct correlation. It's a direct impression of not only your business, but the leadership too.
Yep. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great spot to end it.
Wow.
We appreciate everybody.
We're going to end it already?
Yeah, we're out of time.
I got lightning round questions.
We might have to save those for another episode.
I gotta finish up. I got a couple grandsons out there. Had birthdays. Happy birthday, Rowan, Reese. Love you all. See you soon. There you go.
Fantastic. I appreciate everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of The Front Porch. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for joining us on The Front Porch. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, share, and leave a review so more people can join the conversation. Until next time, keep showing up, keep leading strong, and we'll see you back on the porch soon.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.